McLovin, do the honors with a poll question.
Well, actually, I want to turn to Paulie because he said he had a would you rather career question that I'm dying to hear.
Albert Pujols got released by the Angels, and I guess the question I would have would be, did you know that Albert Pujols was still playing? Non-Angels fans, you might not realize that Albert Pujols was still in baseball. But when you're not in the postseason, he had this unbelievable run with the Cardinals. I mean, he had a 10-year run that would rival any player in the history of the sport. But it's the next 10 years, and this was the cautionary tale. When you sign somebody to a 10-year deal and they're 31 at the time, that's why you're seeing teams sign these players to these long-term contracts when they're much younger. Don't sign anybody to a long-term deal, late 20s, early 30s. You know, when you're 24 and you want to give somebody a, 12-year deal, okay. I'd like to have a little more sample size. I think Tatis probably got, with fewer games played, the contract, if you look at the you're trying to ratio that, I mean, I think he's a lot of fun, but, would I like to see more than, 200 games? I would, but, you take that risk there, which I don't know why you have to sign him up for that amount of time. And, maybe you look at it and you go, okay, eventually this is going to be a good deal for us, or both sides here. And maybe it will be. Maybe the Phillies with Bryce Harper, that'll be a bargain. Maybe Mike Trout, going to be a bargain there. But there are the other guys, the cautionary tales, where you go, guys, they're still paying that guy. And that's where you have to be nervous. And what position do you play when you're handing out those contracts as well? I mean, Pujols was a DH and a first baseman. Probably not many chances to get injured. But he didn't do anything the second half of his career. And he was really competing against the first half of his career. But Pujols is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Incredible numbers there. Yeah, Paulie.
Here's the poll. This is, I think, a tougher one than it appears.
All right.
I compare sometimes Albert Pujols' career to Ken Griffey Jr.'s career. The first 10 years are first ballot, like where you don't even question. The second 10 years are good, definitely not great. I think Pujols had one All-Star appearance in his second 10 years.
Yep.
Griffey Jr., I think, had 2 All-Star appearances in his second 10 years. Whose career would you want? Think of the player, the perception, the numbers.
Now, also understand that Junior got hurt a lot. Pujols, I think, had, one, like his second season in Anaheim, foot issue, plantar fasciitis. Yeah, McLovin.
Yeah, he tore his plantar fasciitis in 2013, but he never really got back to the old Pujols.
Yeah. I would rather be Ken Griffey Jr., even though Pujols has probably got better numbers here. I think when people hear Ken Griffey Jr., like, you have a different, he almost brings a smile to your face the way he played.
Would it be comparable to taking Vince Carter's career over maybe a better stat player? Like, Vince Carter was entertainment. Ken Griffey Jr. was entertainment. And Carter had kind of 2 careers. He had the high-flying 20s and then the spot-up three-point nice jumper.
Yeah, Seton.
Ken Griffey Jr. was an icon for a little while. Yeah. At least that's the way it felt to me growing up. Like, he was a kid that a guy that I really looked up to as a kid. He had that swing and the backwards hat, and he was a little, the backwards hat then caused a little bit of hysteria, so he was sort of polarizing in that way. But Albert Pujols probably made twice as much money, if not more, and has 2 World Series. That to me is worth a lot.
So you would rather be Albert Pujols?
I don't know if I would, actually.
Griffey never appeared in a World Series. Yeah, McLovin.
I think you got to put into timing and context because Griffey saved baseball after the strike. He was before the steroid era. And Pujols, nobody cared about sluggers after Barry Bonds. So Pujols was not as big a deal. Like, nobody, like Seton said, nobody looked at him as an icon.
He just became the face of baseball in St. Louis, one of the great baseball towns in America. 3 MVPs, top 5 for the MVP 10 times. 9 All-Star games. This is all with St. Louis. And they paid $95 million for all of those numbers. And then after that, the 10 seasons with the Angels. And I remember when he signed, and at the time I said, Artie Moreno is rolling the dice. Can he win one world? If you win one world title, then you could probably validate this. But if you don't, then it's going to be a terrible contract. And it turned out to be one of the worst contracts in baseball history. Yeah, Paul.
I'm looking at Griffey when he was in his prime, 27, 28, 29, right before he got injured. 56 homers, 48 homers, stealing 25 bases a year, Gold Glove. Like there's no weaknesses in his game. He hit for average. He hit every single thing.
Yeah, he was a better all-around player, but Pujols' hitting numbers are crazy great, historically great. Yes, Eden.
But you know how people make a big deal out of Tom Brady being drafted in the 6th round?
Yeah.
Albert Pujols was taken in the 13th round.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the greatest underdog stories of all time, that one of the greatest sluggers of a generation, maybe the greatest hitters of all time, went 13 rounds.
Yeah.
Took them 13 rounds to draft that guy.
But
That's something.
Didn't Mike Piazza go 61st round? I think he's probably the lowest drafted Hall of Famer in baseball history. Yeah.
Was that because he was somebody's cousin, like Lasorda?
Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even been
His
drafted
godson.
there.
Yeah. I mean, I think he just did it as a favor to Mike's dad that Tommy knew. And, I think 62nd round, 61st round. Yeah, Paul.
Griffey was the number 1 overall pick of the 87 draft, and he played at age 19 in the minors. What do you think he was like a year earlier at playing high school ball in Cincinnati against Jimmy Lipper, throwing 76?
Well, he was also a great football player as well, great wide receiver. But yeah, in growing up in outside of Cincinnati, we were aware of Ken Griffey Jr. because of Ken Griffey Sr. And I remember people saying, if you think Ken Griffey Sr. is good, wait till his son comes up, and they were right. But yeah, Albert Pujols, first ballot Hall of Famer. Just the last 10 years, out of sight, out of mind. You're not playing in playoff games. Prior to that, you were competing, World Series, winning World Series titles, being an MVP, being in the All-Star game, and that's it.